Our first participant is Stuti Rao.
Hi, I'm Stuti. Firstly, I would like to thank Bangalore Schools for this opportunity for me to speak in front over here. And I'm from the Samhita Academy in 7th A. So me and my dad, we had gone to the local store during the lockdown, and I got really bored because my dad did all the shopping, and I was standing in a social distancing box drawn by the shopkeeper. And in the from the corner of my eye, I noticed some people who were standing without social distancing, like queuing up, and they were getting packets of some sort. And some people, they were not getting the packets, and they looked very sad. So while we were walking back home, I asked my dad, who are those people, and what were they collecting? And my dad said they were migrant workers who were struggling to get food. And then I said, okay, then who are the people who are not getting the packets of food? Then my dad said those people are the people who don't have the local Aadhaar cards, so they can't get the food. Then I decided that I wanted to make something for them, because if hunger does not discriminate, why should we? And after you start thinking about all these things, it's not extremely easy to stop, right? So I decided I was going to make something, but I didn't know what I was going to make because all I knew how to make was cupcakes. And this resulted in my dad calling me Mary Antoinette. Yeah, even I didn't know who she was until I Googled her, because what does a kid do when they don't know something? They Google it, right? So I Googled it, and she was a queen who said if you don't have bread, then you should eat cake. But the mean thing was she didn't even give them cake. That's really rude. And around this time, my mom told me about an initiative, a fundraiser organized by Sujata Balakrishnan ma'am from Theatre for Change. It was called the Young Crusaders COVID 19. And this initiative was for many children to come together, perform their talents, raise money, pool in the money, buy ration kits for the people in need, and donate it to them. So I decided I would take part in this. And I asked Sujata ma'am, can I make cupcakes? And she said, yes, of course, why not? And then I asked her, how much is one ration kit? And she said that one ration kit costs 100 rupees, including biscuits. So I didn't have an oven at that time. So I decided to pair up with with my best friend Satviki, because we're almost like family, and our parents know each other from even before we were born. And family means we fight a lot. So we fought about which cake to make, which icing to put, which tin to use, and most importantly, who's gonna clean up the mess. And my dad and mom got so tired of all this that they just bought me an oven. So I raised my funds through making cupcakes and stuffed capsicum, lots of other dishes like that. And cupcake vans and cake shops were closed, but special days like anniversaries and birthdays kept coming, right? So I decided, since Mother's Day was just around the corner, I was going to make something for the mothers. Not only my mother, for all the mothers I can possibly do for. Because why only some mothers get to celebrate Mother's Day? Why not all the mothers? So I raised a total of 850 rupees, and I feel happiness when I see other people happy. When they smile, I feel like smiling too. But when we distributed these packets to the people, not many of them smiled, because they were worried about their next meal, and when the lockdown would go like release, and when they could go back to their hometown, which could be Orissa or Bengal or wherever they are from. So they were very worried about all these things, and they didn't really smile. Okay, anyway, the 15 people, 15 children rather, took part in this initiative, and totally we raised 20,000 rupees. That's a really good amount. What I got from this entire initiative was lots and lots of happiness and a certificate from Theatre for Change. When I was small, or when I was younger, when we had come back from living abroad, I used to look out of the car window and I used to say, like, I used to look outside and I used to say, oh, why are these homeless people on the streets? And why doesn't the government give them homes? And now, at least in the lockdown, I have grown to realize that the problems of India are extremely complicated, and all of us should do how much ever we can to make sure to help the needy. Thank you, and please don't ask people where they get their Aadhaar cards from.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Warm greeting from Jivesin of class 50. I study at Srimati Kamlabai Educational Institution. Today I am going to narrate my personal story, which is very near to my heart. This is a real incident which happened 3 years ago when I visited my maternal grandparents' house. I saw a little boy sitting on the pavement. He was shivering in the cold. He barely hadn't worn anything too. I felt helpless. As we entered our house, it was very warm and cozy inside. We were served hot and delicious food. After having the food, I was still roaming here and there, still thinking about the little boy. Suddenly, my mother noticed me and asked, "What happened, son?" I did not give any response. Again, she asked me, "What happened, son?" I did not give any response again. After that, she bought few warm clothes so that we could wear and we could feel warm rather than cold. That time I quickly told my mother, "I am feeling uncomfortable because I saw a little boy sitting on the pavement. He was shivering in the cold and he barely hadn't worn anything." My mother gladly hugged me and told, "Very good child, you understand the feeling of a needy." She also agreed to share some hot food, unused blanket, and a pair of socks. When I stepped out of my house, I felt confident rather than helpless. And when I gave him, he gladly accepted. He quickly wrapped the blanket around him. The smile on his face made me to realize the value of everything. The feeling of a smile. It also gave me a sigh of relief. Wow, a feeling when you help a needy. The next day, this incident kept me thinking about what would make a long difference in his life. Suddenly, an idea popped out of my mind, and I promised myself every year with my pocket money. For him, I will buy chocolates, books, clothes, and etc. It has been 4 years now. Rahul and I are good friends. I surely call him on my birthdays, and I share some of my gifts. I call him to play with me, and we play together. I enjoy playing with him as we cycle around in turns. I also talk to his parents about his education. They agreed, as I firmly believe education is the only tool to chase poverty away and become an independent society helper. My parents are so inspired by me that they appreciate me for this work. But I always reply them. I have learned it from the elders of the house. I also reply, when I grow up, I will surely help the society people. As I strongly believe, if one child saves his pocket money, he can bring a smile on his another child's face. So, dear friends, save your pocket money and make a long difference in people's life. I thank my school and this platform to give me such a nice opportunity to speak here. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Sanjeeva Torabena. I'm from Orimco Academy School, studying in grade 1. Kids can save Mother Earth. If we all try together, we can. Reduce plastic, save paper. Reduce plastic why? Because if we use less plastic, then the seas wouldn't be polluted and animals won't eat plastic and die. save paper, why? If we save paper, we can save trees. If we save trees, we can save forests. If we save forests, we can save Mother Earth. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Happier Earth. Reduce. Reduce. When you go out, always take a cloth bag with you, or the vendor will give you a plastic bag. Don't use more paper napkins, use cloth napkins instead. Reuse. Reuse cardboard boxes that come to your house. Like I did. You can make it your thing, school supply this box, and you can even do something with it or play with it. Use newspapers for art and collage, like it's been done in a school. Donate old clothes for needy and poor. Recycle. Recycle things that are thrown from your house, like glass, paper, plastic, and tin cans. Like that, you can save Mother Earth. Children can save Mother Earth. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Navneet, a 2-year-old who loves to learn new things. This story has been by far the best learning experience I have ever had, and that was the stepping stone to help and inspire me to learn more. So here's how it all started. I was a 7-year-old boy who was still amused with learning new things in life. I felt like I was a blooming flower with no fragrance at all. I tried many things, but I just couldn't feel connected to them. But one thing I kept close to my heart was dancing. One day, when I was watching some dance videos, I chanced upon Michael Jackson doing some mind blowing steps. I quickly fell in love with the dance form and I asked myself, why not try it myself? But unfortunately, there was no mentor who could teach me. Neither of my parents had a background of dancing, nor every single dance class in my community only taught Bollywood dancing. Don't ask me further. I felt heartbroken. But sooner or later, I realized that the only way I could pursue my passion is to move on and learn it by myself. So I watched the videos diligently and tried to mimic the steps. The learning was long and it felt like a never ending run. I tried every single day, every week, and every month, but it still wasn't near to what I was expecting. There was a time when I felt like it was impossible to get it done by myself. But nevertheless, I kept on trying. At this point, a lot of you might be wondering, why should I struggle so much to learn the steps that no one forced me to do? Nor I was competing in a competition either. Well, the answer is pretty simple. I felt I would be able to master it. I felt connected to the steps, and MJ's moonwalk was something I was earning to do. After a long run of days of practice, I had finally mastered the amazing steps that Michael Jackson performed. As a sense of accomplishment, I would do the MJ's moonwalk in my dance classes whenever the given opportunity to do so. After a few months, I was named the little MJ in my community. The story I would like to inspire to others is to pursue your passion and get yourself committed to it. However small might be the dream, get pride in success of small dreams as they are the baby steps to achieve big things. I commit to dream and learn. I've walked a lot of baby steps now, and I will continue to dream big to achieve big. Don't quit if you can't do it. Midway or later, you'll soon find a way to your path. Thank you.
So today I'm going to be talking about an experience that really changed my life and my outlook towards life more actually. So when I was 7 years old, I had moved to Singapore due to my father's work. And at that point in time, I always wanted to come back to Bangalore. And at that time, I wasn't aware of the profound effect an environment could actually have on a person. And as 5 beautiful years passed by, Bangalore wasn't on my mind anymore. In fact, Singapore was the only home I could identify with. I was, with my parents, I was able to build a community for myself. With my friends in my new school, and I was part of all activities, and I had, enrolled myself in all sorts of classes. So when I was told that we were moving back to Bangalore in the 5th grade, to say that statement was met with shock would be an understatement. I was so attached to the environment that we had built, I couldn't dream of leaving. At that point in time, Singapore was the only home I could identify with. But what I didn't know at that moment was that this very situation would completely change my outlook on life and the way I tackled things and situations in the future. So the move back to Bangalore was the biggest environmental change that I have ever experienced, a circumstance that I had to overcome. So, and this situation required a lot of support, which I received from my parents. My mother told me to treat this drastic change as a challenge and to move forward by taking it one step at a time and one day at a time. And with time, I made peace with my new reality and was ready for my new journey. So on my first day of school in Bangalore, at Sri Kumaran's Children's Home, I knew my motivation that specific day. I wanted to hold a leadership position and be as well known as I was in Singapore. So I told myself that I would have to work hard to make sure that my goals were met. So I participated in all the school events, from dance to football, and made sure that I took every single opportunity to showcase my leadership skills to my teachers. And all of my hard work came into fruition when I was elected as the head girl of my school in the 7th grade. And I just realized that I had built a brand new environment for myself, a new community of friends, a new family around me. And I myself created an opportunity to do what I love doing the most, which is being a leader. And as I reached high school, which was the 8th grade, I was very well known, and I hung around with what the school called the popular girls. And through this friendship that I had with these set of girls, I started noticing hints of gossiping and talking behind each other's backs. And honestly, I was afraid that speaking out against them would make them dislike me. And going against the norm that had been set in this specific environment would not make them value me as someone part of that community. So trying to fit in, I ignored all signs of this toxic behavior, and I never realized that this would come at its own cost. So soon enough, they started gossiping behind my back, and rumors were everywhere. And it was then when I started questioning the people I surround myself with. I started asking myself, what was more important to me? Was it to please the people around me in school, or was it to take care of my own mental health and stand by the values that I had been raised with? And towards the end of 8th grade, I finally pushed myself to leave this gang or this group of girls and stop spending my time and energy on them. So I stopped talking to them and started to talk to everybody else around me. I made new friends and embraced the rest of the people in the school. I became more confident in myself and my communication skills, and my ability to overcome change was reiterated. And I realized that this popularity that everybody searches for in school is extremely shallow. What is the point of being in a school with around people your age if you choose to segregate yourself into different groups? So these two situations, however small they may seem in this huge world, it made me grow as a human being. I learned that change was inevitable. And sometimes it's actually important to enforce change in your own life in order to challenge yourself. Because you don't know your limits until you push yourself through them. I believe that each and every single one of us have untapped potential within us, simply because we're afraid of stepping out of our comfort zones. And what is this? Because we're afraid of the result, the future. What will happen if I try this new thing? Will I fail? Will people dislike me? Will I not be as good as I think I will be? So the next time you stop yourself from doing something just because you're afraid of what might happen, get up and do it anyway. It's the mistakes along the way which will help you learn how to work more efficiently the next time. So try something new every day and challenge yourself to push past those limits that you think you have. Every one of us is capable of achieving everything they want in life. And the only thing, believe me, it's the only thing, it's that fear of failure and the future results that you have in your head that you have to push past and work on what you can control, which is the present, and how you're going to make this day the best day that you've experienced. Thank you.
Failures are stepping stone to success. Have heard? Do you know a famous scientist who used to follow this phrase? Yes, it is Thomas Edison. After his 999 failures, he finally invented a bulb. Good morning, everybody. My name is Anya. I study in grade 6. And in this lockdown, my father had joined me in some classes like music, dance, Bhagavad Gita, singing, and slokas, and even karate. So, my sister was good in everything, and including her academics. So, again, after some days in this lockdown, we had some competitions. So, in this, we had a karate and online karate tournament held in Mysore, where my sister won a first prize. And again, we had another tournament. We had a sloka competition, where again she won a first prize. Again, we had a competition held in ISKCON. Again, she won a first prize out of 76 students. By saying all of these, I felt very sad. And even my parents also felt very sad. And again, after some days, my father told that there is a competition of inspired talks. Then I told my father that, Father, I don't want to participate, since however I failed. My father told that it's not the matter of winning, child, it's just the matter of participating. Again, my parents told that some of them can win when they're younger, while some can win when they're older. So, never compare with each other, and never feel bad while comparing, and never even compare. Thank you.
There's nothing stronger than a woman who has rebuilt herself. Hannah Gadsby. A warm welcome to all of you amazing souls present here today. I'm Malka Bidappa, a 14-year-old ordinary girl from Bangalore. I wanted to share my story because I thought, why not? So here goes. On the outside, though people may see me as this really joyful and bubbly, cheerful girl who may be living the fairy tale life, everybody has their own issues, right? For instance, I happen to have issues at home. Well, my parents are both different people and happen to have their own opinions. I was 10 when I got to know about certain arguments that came up over these opinions, and I was highly affected. There were many downsides. For instance, my academic performance deteriorated and I became really quiet and shied away from almost everything. I did not say much, nor did I do much. Well, of course, it was a rough phase, but I knew I had to get over it. I focused on bettering myself, and it wasn't easy. It went on for almost a year and a half, but I didn't consider this as a waste of time. I took it as an opportunity to improve myself, focusing on my goals, moving on. There were days when all I wanted to do was give up, but my mother and my grandmother helped me get through this by telling me that I can and that I have to be strong. On the other side, there were also days which were like an entire breath of fresh air because of what new things I discovered working on myself. In April 2019, to my rescue came a blessing in disguise, the world famous boy band BTS. And I wanted to know what they were all about because they were the talk of the town. At first, it was just an I want to know their names kind of thing, but later on, I was hooked. Their music started making sense to me as it was all about loving yourself and believing that you'll get through anything. It was as if listening to the music gave me an instant boost and gave me the feeling that I could accomplish absolutely anything. As school started, new year, new beginning, and all that, I attended the first day and I was surprised at my performance. Well, I was always super cheerful and positive, and my friends were questioning the change in behavior, but I was really happy. A week goes by, and the results for our student council is announced, and suddenly, out of nowhere, I'm elected as head girl, and I was shocked. It came as a huge shock, but I was also ecstatic. It hit me that BTS's music made me happy and brought about a change. I became a fan, and now I'm a part of ARMY, which is the fandom name. They taught me that yes, there will be obstacles, but also taught me how to overcome them. They made me a version of myself which wouldn't have been possible a year ago then. I personally feel there's no one who will believe in you until you believe in yourself. You have to fall down in order to learn to pick yourself up. You may think that your problems are the biggest, but sometimes people with the brightest smiles and the happiest attitudes are the ones going through the darkest times. Trust me, tomorrow if there are 10 people who actually share their problems with each other, they will walk back with their own problems because you are given problems which you are capable of handling. The perfect life doesn't exist. If the choices you make benefit your life and help you reach your goal, you're not close to a perfect, you're not, steps away from a perfect life, but a successful one. Be yourself no matter what, and always work towards improvement. Compete with your previous achievements because you are the best player out there on the field. No one can pull you down. I always thought that I was incapable of getting over that one tough and rough phase of my life, but today here I am, an ARMY, a good daughter, a reliable friend, a strong sister, and most of all, a smart girl and a better version of myself. So I would like to conclude by saying it's obviously going to be hard, but that does not mean it's impossible. Love yourself and trust yourself because at the end, no matter what, you're all you've got. I want every single person out there to know that your mind is the strongest and you can lead it however you want to. Remember, don't give the control of your emotions to someone else, as I believe that happiness is always within you. I would like for this story of mine to be an inspiration inside you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Surabhi Ravishankar from Sri Kumaran Children's Home. I'm 9 years old and I'm studying in 4th grade. When this corona pandemic started, I started to feel very bored sitting at home. But everything changed when my mom enrolled me to online coding classes in July. I started learning a coding language called Scratch. Scratch is a programming language developed by MIT. I started building many projects and soon became comfortable with it. I was looking for ways to apply my knowledge and help solve a real problem. Last year, the Karnataka state government made Kannada mandatory in all schools. This made it difficult for many kids from non-Kannada families to pick up the language quickly. I could see many of my classmates struggling. I saw an opportunity to help them. So I made a fun and interesting project in Scratch to help learn Kannada. My mother shared it with all my batchmates and her friends on social media. We got very good feedback, and a lot of people have been using the worksheets I developed. It is hosted on the Scratch website. The best part about my worksheet is that it's accessible to everyone. No registration or fees required. It works on all mobiles, laptops, and desktops across all platforms, and there are no ads. It is available at tinyurl.com/Kannada Learn. Here is a quick demo of my 3-year-old sister enjoying the game.
Okay, go.
ಈರುಳ್ಳಿ ಮೂಲಂಗಿ ಮೆಣಸಿನಕಾಯಿ ಸೌತೆಕಾಯಿ ಬೆಳ್ಳುಳ್ಳಿ ಬೆಂಡೆಕಾಯಿ
Can everyone hear the audio?
ಆಲೂಗೆಡ್ಡೆ
Yes, Surabhi, we can hear the audio.
ಬದನೆಕಾಯಿ ಬಟಾಣಿ ಎಲೆಕೋಸು Great job, fun game.
Good job. What is this? Colors. Kempu.
ಕಂದು ಬಿಳಿ ನೀಲಿ ಕಪ್ಪು ಹಳದಿ ಹಸಿರು ಕೇಸರಿ ಬೂದಿ ಗುಲಾಬಿ Good job, you won the game.
There are many such worksheets and I hope many people benefit from it. I'm currently working on a project to help underprivileged children learn English in a school run by Vibha, a charitable trust based in Mumbai. I also hope to teach coding to them free of cost one day. Thank you.
So, hello, my name is Rag. I study in Valiance Academy in 5th grade. Before we start, I have a question for all of you. Have you ever wished to learn playing the guitar? Please type your answers in the chat box. So from the response, I can tell most of you want or wanted to learn playing the guitar. This is what happens almost everywhere. Almost everyone wished to learn playing the guitar. Even I wanted to learn the guitar at the age of 7. I was listening to a music album when I got inspired by one of the guitarists in that band. So I asked my father if I could learn the guitar. He said yes. So the next day, we went to a famous institute in Bangalore. There, they said, you only teach to children who are 10 or more. I was sad and asked my father if we can go somewhere else. So we approached my father's mandolin sir. I asked the same question again. Can I learn the guitar? He said, 7 is too young to learn the guitar and already have a mandolin, so why don't you start with the mandolin? I said, okay. I was sad on the way back home because I thought mandolin is not good because it's small. But my father convinced me to try it till the age of 10. So, from the next day, I started having my mandolin classes.
Sir taught me in the Eastern style. After 8 months, I started with small songs. And after 2 years, I made an unbreakable bond with the mandolin. I loved it, so I continued. And guess what? I'm almost 11 but still play the mandolin. I also have a YouTube channel now for music. Mandolin is a unique instrument with 4 pairs of strings. Instead of one string, when you play once, instead of one string vibrating, 2 strings vibrate. Because of that, each note has a special tone. And mandolin can be tuned in the Eastern and Western style. And what did I learn from this story? I learned that my passion was the music, not just the guitar. And guitar is just a tool to reach to that destination. Mandolin helped me go towards the same passion in a different but equally or in a more exciting way. So my call to all of you is also this. Whenever you find a new passion, think deeply into it. What is the route to that? Even when there are some barriers to attain it, look for other alternatives to achieve it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone present here. I'm Pranavi KR from Delhi Public School, Bangalore South. Thank you for this opportunity. When I found out that the topic was Inspire Talks, I panicked. I was like, me, how can I inspire someone? Just look at me. And then I realized that inspiration is just another word for influence. And suddenly after that, I was fine. My story was about how I adopted an indie dog, which felt like we were destined to meet. Almost everyone knows that dogs are one of the most loyal animals. They're also a support system, and they're always there for you. Due to the COVID-19, we're all locked in. My dogs played an important role by keeping me sane. So, when I spoke about dogs, did I mention if it's a pedigree or a street dog? No, because it does not matter. Dogs are loving and loyal, whether it's a street dog or a pedigree. But some people don't even consider street dogs as animals who also have emotions. I have noticed many people saying that street dogs are disgusting, and the reasons why they feel that disgusts me. They say that they are dirty and ugly. Do you really think that they are ugly? Just look at these animals. Look at these innocent eyes. Don't you think they deserve love? Street dogs usually act violent because of some inhuman people as they abuse these dogs. NGOs in Bangalore have been saving street dogs, but due to the rising population, it is extremely difficult for them to take care. The simple solution for this problem is to start vaccinating, neutering, and adopting. I am glad to see people adopting street dogs, but this change can be more stronger. We can spread awareness and set this as a new trend. These dogs just need a place to call home, some food, and loads of love. So I conclude saying that don't shop, adopt. Thank you.
So Monisha, from your first cut, your feedback on how the presentations went, what did you feel?
So Manoj, being a parent of 2 extremely smart and naughty kids, I think one takeaway from this was that I heard 2 kinds of voices, right? I heard a voice that was coached, and it appeared very coached because there was a presentation and there was a literature behind it. But I also heard a few amazing talks where the kids were speaking right from their heart. They probably would have scripted it by themselves, but I could connect to that. I could connect to their hearts and the minds that got them to say the way that they were speaking. And I think it's amazing to sort of relate to the kind of experiences that kids have today. I think that's been my biggest takeaway from here, honestly. And and kudos to all of you for staging something like this, honestly.
Thank you, Monisha. Okay, Chetana, your first thoughts on the presentations that went. You've been seeing children, hundreds of children, thousands of children over the last 20 years. and you would have heard many more stories, because children come with stories all the time. And being such an approachable educator yourself, I want to hear from you first, Cut, on what did you feel about these presentations?
Yeah, I think what really stood out was the confidence. I don't think we were anything like this when we were growing up. So it's amazing to see children have the confidence, have a thought process, be able to sequence it, be able to, speak to a audience, understanding what the audience might want and might be able to comprehend also. That is an art. It doesn't come just like that. Another thing is, whatever they were speaking, whether somebody had helped them not or whatever it is, there was something that was core in them. They felt for that cause, whatever that cause was, and I think from there on, it will go ahead. So I would, at this point of time, just take it as a seed that has been sown in these children by themselves, which is good than the adults or the world around them. So I think the seeds have been sown, and now they have to see how they can work on it. It's very important for all the adults around the children, I think, of these children, to make sure that they remain children. I only request that, because as the children, mature, the dreams and the hopes and the seeds also will blossom naturally, and then we will see really unique results out of what we are seeing today. That will be the biggest award, I think, more than anything.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
So this is just a start, as we said in the initial time. So some of you guys have joined us recently. You were not there when we started this. So just to give a quick introduction, Chetna Kini is a founder director of Aurinko Academy, Dr. Chetna Kini, and she's been running this amazing institute for quite some time, 20 years into homeschooling, and she is also a homeschooling coach, and she also is a strong proponent of alternate philosophy of education. And I mean, as I know, she's a very, very approachable educator for children. I've seen her in the school. I've seen the campus also, amazing place. And a special thanks to Chetna and Anup for coming up first. The moment we said that there is something called as Inspired Talk that we are planning, and we are looking at somebody who will be ready to partner with that, Chetna just took up saying that, okay, we are going to take it up, because this is something that is very close to our heart. So thank you, Chetna, for being a constant support to all of us, the three of us, Sandhya, Shweta, and myself, not just in running that community, coming out with your thought processes at any point of time. And you are somebody who's active there. So any parent who needs to reach out to Chetna in terms of any support, she's always been there, not just in the community, but outside also. So thank you, Aurinko Academy and the team, Nandini, all of you there who've been constantly working with us in making this expo and this Inspire Talk a wonderful occasion. And Monisha Chakravarti, a good friend of mine, 20 plus years into corporate life, a mom of two amazing kids, just relocated to Vizag, and she's joining us from Vizag now. She runs 4 startup companies, and she's coming out with this amazing concept called the Festivals of India. I'm looking forward to that, Monisha. So thank you for joining in today. So let me get into the discussion topic that we wanted to speak about, the secret of motivating your child. So let me ask this to Chetna first. Is there a secret to motivating the child?
Yeah, there is a very big secret. And
are you ready to reveal that secret to us?
Yeah. Of course, we should. So I think it's the environment. Children are already there, right? It's the environment. It's the adults. If we can live a life that could inspire the children, if we could sow the right seeds around them with the right experiences, the stimulation that they require, the resources that they require, all of these things, if we are able to do. And last thing is, if we can open up and listen and participate in their lives of curiosity and awe and that joy that children have, that is enough. The children will find their passions, they will pursue them, and they will be motivated, and they will achieve whatever they want to. That's the secret.
Okay. I'm seeing a chat from Vansh Vikrant Chowdhury. So Herika, if you could just get on a call with them, try to sort it out. We still want to give an opportunity if it is possible, because we're really short of time, but at least we want to hear what Vansh has to say. We will give another opportunity at the end of it, if at all time permits. Monisha, to you, what is your secret? What is your secret of motivation? Because I know you're motivated hundreds of you're a mentor to a lot of people. In terms of a lot of people look up to you from the corporate world, but is there a secret to motivating children?
So Manoj, I'm personally not an educator, so I will not claim that space. But a little story, not more than 2 minutes, I promise. So I grew up in an extremely disturbed environment. Okay, and I had two choices as a child, and I grew up with two younger brothers. So I had two choices. One was to actually imitate what was going on, and the second was to not imitate what was going on. Right. So at a very, I don't know when this started or how this started, and like Chetna rightly said, the environment matters, and planting that seed is what it takes, right? So some seed probably got sown long back, and that it led to a lot of determination. It led to a lot of rebellion, positive rebellion, to not actually replicate an environment like this in my personal life. Okay, and obviously it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy journey at all. In fact, it's not even easy today. But Chetna, I totally agree with you. I think the environment in which a child really grows up does it all, right? And at the end of the day, children are such good imitators. They're such good imitators. I think parents are the primary role models that they have, because that's the first person they know, when they achieve consciousness, right? So I think as grown-ups, as people who are cultivating our own children, I think the little bit that we can owe to them is that peaceful environment, that positive environment that the child can grow up in. Because it's honestly not a great idea to turn young children into rebels, into whether it is a positive rebel or a negative rebel, because it actually lands up affecting a lot of relationship culture in their lives. So they might become achievers, they might become amazing talents out there, but I think the softer part of life is all about maintaining relationships, and that I think they learn first. This has been myself sort of assessment from whatever I have been through, from whatever I've understood of my lives of my friends, their children, and everybody around me. That's it.
Okay. So what you're essentially saying is the environment part. So that's the first part, and not everybody is kind of blessed with the greatest of environment. The best thing that parents can do is always to kind of create that environment for them and ensure that they have a this thing. Chetna, I come back to you, because we've been talking about this for a very long time now, and I know for a fact that Chetna is a big proponent of this theory of the parent-school collaboration. Now, what is the school's role in terms of, so when I'm saying school, I'm talking about the entire environment. So there is an environment that Monisha spoke about, which is a family, which is a home. And then the second environment where the child actually spends the maximum amount of daytime is in the school. So I'm talking about that environment in a whole. What is the role of that environment in ensuring that the child is motivated?
Right. So for a child, the school is another home, if not more than their own home, because they spend a lot of quality time there. They have the relationships there. They have a very close relationship with their teachers, actually. It can be close. It depends on how we are looking at it. But the child's world actually is the school more than the home, whatever said and done. And one of the key things that should change in the interactions that we are having with children is freedom, is to have a non-judgmental outlook, and to become better listeners. Somewhere the adults in the schools should become people that are only observing children, facilitating them anytime they need something, but more of listening to them and seeing where are their pursuits leading them to. If that is done, and there is a sense of no fear and stress-free environment, with a lot of emphasis on hands-on work. When I say hands-on, it doesn't mean doing science experiments. Anything and everything, if a child is having, that whole ecosystem then becomes a good ground for a child to start experimenting with things. Add to that a lot of external community work that happens inside the school, right? Many people should be visiting schools, and children should be interacting with them from across the world. At that point of time, I think the children start looking at the world beyond what they can actually see only in the school. That kind of context building helps a child. And this is not a one-day affair. This is not a 1 month affair. This is not a 1 year affair also. The entire 18 years then comes into the picture for a child. And somewhere you will start seeing the child blossoming, and all of these these interventions becoming fruitful. So that's very important for adults to interface with the children in the right way. Now, what can parents do, right? Parents and schools should co-parent the children. That's the only way that we can go ahead. What do we mean by co-parenting? Of course, parents are working and they have their own lives and they have their own challenges in life. But to have an open communication with the school helps. Second, to start sharing stories. Many schools are scared to become transparent to parents because there's a sense of being judged. There's a sense of giving return on investment, unfortunately, for things, right? If we remove these things out of the picture, it will become very easy for parents and schools to become transparent, to become open, to start communicating. Like in Aurinco, we have a WhatsApp group, a simple WhatsApp group. It's called the Aurinco family. And on a daily basis, whatever the children do, we share over there, not from the school side, even from the parent side. Now during lockdown, this morning someone has gone to a playground and played Lagori with the slum kids. We have pictures and videos today. Somebody is doing something all the time, whether they're cooking, they're cleaning, they're washing, they're making something. Somebody made a grill the other day. He actually built a grill to fry, marshmallows or something like that. So anytime a child does something, we are sharing, not only with the parent and the school, with the parents and the school, which means all the children. Next morning when the child comes to school, everybody knows, the whole community knows what's happening. That is a motivation of a different thing, because you need extrinsic motivation when you're small. When you grow up, then it becomes intrinsic. But you need that acknowledgement, you need that acceptance, you need that those words of encouragement. You need to sometimes be put on a pedestal, like, oh, I did something like this. So that whole joy is created when we co-parent with the school. So I think the schools also should start looking at parents as somebody who are the very, very important people in raising these children. The child is important, no doubt, but the parents, but you have to acknowledge they're also evolving. They don't have a DIY kit that came with the child, right? They don't have a manual there. They will make mistakes. They will do things. Raise them with the child. It's the school's job to raise the parents also with the child. And that has been an amazing journey for us for 10 years. And they have been my best friends. The parents have been my best friends in making Aurinco what it is today. And I think every school should enjoy the joys of this kind of a co-parenting journey.
Lovely, Chetna.
Okay. Chetna, very interesting point that you made in terms of co-parenting. Okay, that's a very, very interesting word, and that's a big word when we say. We've always seen it in certain schools wherein one of the issues that I've always faced is when you have a campus of 3 acres and there are 6,000 children there. How do you really work on co-parenting in that? So how important it is for a parent to really choose a school. Why I'm coming to this point is also because many times we see in the community discussions around parents not being happy with the school, and I always tell them, okay, if you're not happy with it, what do you do next? There's no point in sitting and cribbing. You need to take some action. But what do you do in terms of ensuring that you are at the right place? So what do you advise to parents in terms of ensuring that the child is in the right place, wherein the child will find motivation, because that's an important part of growing up. So what is your advice on that? And I think when we discussed, Monisha, we spoke about this also some time back. So what is that one thing that you would tell parents about this?
So we have to really understand that you have to spend time in a school to understand the philosophy and the methodology. Number of children does matter, but I'm saying other than that, it's important to understand why the school was set up, what is the founder's ideology behind it, what are their goals, why are they actually doing something like this, what is the involvement of the teachers, of the parents, of everybody. If the founder is a be-all, end-all kind of person, she or he is never going to trust the people. I'll have to trust till the last person working in my compound. I'll have to trust that person will do what is supposed to be done for the child in the best possible way. Only when I bestow that trust, that person is going to try their level best, right? So if we see that kind of a dissemination. Second, in Aurinco, we have this co-parenting to the ultimate degree. So the parent is the person that is overseeing the child and his experiences, his homework, his this, that, everything, and telling us if there is any problem with the teacher not following the Aurinco philosophy because she's new or whatever. And the trust is there that will not hold her at ransom for it. We all together are nurturing each other, and we all together are growing. First of all, the school environment has to happen like this. Now, the second thing that I really request parents is, when deciding for a school, don't look for which is the nearest school, which is the bus that comes to my apartment, where are the maximum children going, or what is the 10th grade results, or who got into IIT or something like that. All of that, those are good check boxes, but those are not the important check boxes. What you should really see is, what is your child's experience going to be on a daily basis. If it is something that you can recreate at home, you don't need to go to school in the first place. It should be something that is so unique, so different, so child-centric, so child-friendly, that you really need that space, right? If you're going to do just a chalk and talk thing, why can't you do it at home? So that is because the world is moving, the world is changing, and the careers are changing. The typical chalk and talk learning is not at all important. Look at the people who are presenting today. Right, those people don't need this kind of schools. They're already there. They could be the teachers, for all you know.
Absolutely.
So that is something that, and another last point, I'm sorry I'm taking time, is money. We always feel that when children are small, why should we invest? Right? Trust me, believe me, invest in the beginning years till 5th or 6th grade. You will see the results. You may not need to invest after 5th grade. But invest in the beginning. Find smaller spaces. Find dedicated individuals who are running schools. Partner with the schools. Try to make it better. Don't try to find the best school. The best school is not going to move further. They're already best. Work with something that you can build, so that you have the power to bring what you want to yourself. Right? So see if you can do something like this, and don't expect a return on investment for money. Your child will return everything that you want, and more and beyond.
Okay, I like that ROI part that you brought in there. Monisha, question to you. Okay, what motivates to do what you're doing? So let me start with that. So I know you're a person who wears, I wouldn't even say multiple hats on multiple hats. So that's the style I've seen Monisha doing. So what motivates you to do what you're doing?
So, Manoj, this is a very tough question, and you're not going to be giving me enough time to answer this. So I'm not going to be able to do justice. Just a quick answer, yeah. So I'll tell you what, I think the shortest way to short circuit myself and say that this is the answer is, I try to do whatever I didn't find in my life, right? So I wish I came across Chetna earlier. Chetna, I was looking for a homeschooler. Trust me, Manoj knows that a desperation that he found in my tone. But, so I'm one of those individuals who will look, will research. If she doesn't find something, she will go out there and make it. I'm one of those crazy, stupid people, and I get backlash like nobody's business, right? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to, stir people up and say that, guys, whatever you've been thinking and doing, now great, let's do this. So I'll be pulling Manoj in all directions, and Manoj is going to, I think he's lost his hair because of me. So Manoj, I'll help you with a little bit of hair transplant sometime. But I think
don't worry,
idea
I have enough of it.
don't tell me that. I'll come up with 2 more ideas and then you'll be regretting. But I think the intent has always been, to find out if there are more crazies out there, people with whom I can connect, people who are like-minded, and form these communities. That's it. Just curate communities.
So why I asked you this question is I want to relate it to another question to it. You have your reason. So how do you ensure that your children are motivated?
So if you ask me, Manoj, my kids are my partners. They are not my children at all. In fact, I have them getting food and waking me up in the morning and telling me when to go to bed and stuff like that. So I'm not one of those parents who boss around. I do boss around, but then it's exactly like how friends boss around, right, with each other when there has to be a limit to something. But I think the idea is that they are completely in sync with what I do at any given point of time. Now, I don't know. I know most parents will not agree to this. Some might, but I have a very open book policy with my kids. Okay, so they know exactly who my friends are, what I'm doing, who I consider and appreciate, who I don't. In terms of and there's always a little bit of reasoning with them because they are very, very naive individuals, right? And there is a way or a language in which we have to communicate. A lot of people have told me, Monisha, do not expose them, do not bring them, open to such, experiences in life so early. But I feel that it's better that, they get it at home than go and pick up some random stuff from outside, right? Because you cannot control what they are going to get to experience outside an environment that you have at home. But if they see and they can replicate even 2% of whatever I feel is positive happening in my life, I think that is good enough. That's the maximum I can inculcate at this time, and probably they will take that seed and fertilizer and
Got it.
grow a farm out of it.
Okay. Chetana, you're just not an educator. You are an amazing parent as well. And I've seen some of those pictures that you have with your child also, and an amazing family that is being set up. Anup, I hope he's hearing us. But the question to you is, how do you ensure your child is motivated? Because when you're an educator, you're running such an amazing space, and both of you are really, really engrossed into it. There are chances that the child misses out, your own child misses out at times. So how do you ensure that his motivation levels are always up and running?
Yeah, so Aniket is now 20 years old. So I think he's motivated beyond my intervention. But I think when he was growing up, one of the things that I did was I never meddled with him. I did not interfere when not necessary. He was given a free hand, but the whatever are the value systems, those are what I can continue to work on. Like maybe safety or respecting others or respecting resources around and those kind of things. So since he was homeschooled, life became easy. We didn't have to do much. I don't like the word homeschooling at all, because it's not about schooling. It's about living a life, right? So I think few things that I surely did was one, to be a good example. And Anup and I have been those people who did our own stuff and who had our workshop, and we continued to work on various things. Second is to involve him in everything that I did, because I started studying and doing a lot of things. I'm also from the corporate turned educator and all of that. So I as I was studying, as I was learning, as I was researching, he would be a part of that. Another thing that I did was I made him very, very independent by age 8. Whether it was cooking, cleaning, watching, making his own things, talking to outsiders, getting help, and traveling by himself. All of that was done by age 8 or 9. Another thing was definitely I refused to pay for anything that he wanted to learn. I think that was the biggest, best thing that I did, because I used to tell him, if you want to learn something, find someone to teach you. And so you had to literally go and ask people, can you teach me this? Can you teach me this? Can you teach me this? So his circle increased, his skills increased. He learned from so many people. He's a very good teacher now, because he has so much experience learning from various kinds of people. And I never raised him with being judgmental about something or opinionated about something. I always told him everyone has a reason for who they are, what their choices are, what their behaviors are, and people change. Today, if someone is doing something, doesn't mean that is it. They will evolve, they will change, and there is joy in seeing that change. Because of that, I think the whole motivation for his life is not in one thing. It is in several things, and somewhere I can see it is in life itself. So when life itself is a motivation for you, everything around you is nice and shiny.
Exactly.
So
that's wonderful.
We've been able to do for him.
Yeah, well said there. Okay. Monisha, are you able to hear Chetana? Because I'm losing her in between. Okay, Chetana, you're back. Okay. So this is another question that keeps always coming back into it. You said it also. Children don't listen to what you say. Children do what you do. So how can a parent ensure that part is done? Because today it's pretty crazy. The people are working. Both of them are working. You really don't have enough time to set those examples. So how do you ensure that is done, Monisha?
Manoj, you asked such tough questions. Now I'm actually thinking like how, I've come unprepared. Okay, so this is absolutely spontaneous.
I didn't give you the questions earlier. I know that.
No, I know you're doing this on purpose. But anyways, I'll bring some humor in. So I'll tell you what I do. I just don't do anything, Manoj. You know me. I am the way I am with you, with with pretty much everybody around me. But when it comes to defining good from bad, right? When especially with your children, and I know that I'm not a perfect human being. I have my own vices and I have my own pros. It's a little important, I think, sometimes to tell them that this is the good side and this is the bad side, right, of a person, and everybody has a little bit of both. And my philosophy personal has also been that every individual, right, we are not like saints and sadhus coming down and preaching our own strategies of life. I think everybody has a dark side. Maybe somebody has a little of it, somebody has a little more of it, somebody has a good side as well. And I think showing which side of yourself to another person depends on the kind of relationship that you would want to establish with that person, right? Depending on how much of the good side that you're getting from that person or how much of the bad side that you're getting from that person. And I think the second part of the philosophy has always been, which I tell my children all the time, is that, if you have a bad side, you don't necessarily have to show it. You don't have to exhibit it. You can feel that, you can experience all of it, but there is no need to express so much of an attitude, right? Because the world around you doesn't care. People are all very, very preoccupied, right? They have their own stuff to do, and they're all busy, and they're all having their own struggles. So if you feel negatively about something, just hold it back. Just hold it back and turn that, harvest that energy into a positive one. I think people who, feel something about you will eventually come around and figure out why you did what you did or how you felt, etc. And if they can realize between the good and the bad of this, right? Eventually, and I've seen this happen, it'll all work out. Maybe, you lose some, you keep some in terms of relationship, but whatever you're left with is what is worth you, right? Or what you're worth at the end of the day. I think the kids need to realize this, and if they do, they will stay invested in the right direction. Because I've seen kids who are trying to fit into, circles in school, social circles, compete with each other, and try to do all these things which put a lot of self-stress on them. And somewhere I feel, we as parents and educators need to relieve them. And I think I totally agree with Chetna and her philosophy that, do not over interfere, but just give them the little framework that they need. And let them also know that, these are the pointers. If you need more, probably we research together. So that's it. Yeah.
I've seen this beautiful idea, Monisha, where people say, do not interfere, just involve. So I think that's something that is what we all need to do as parents. I am a parent of two amazing kids myself. So the moment you interfere, it's difficult because many of us come from a generation which was completely interfered and intervened with. And when it's very difficult for us to let go of that, because many of us believe that that's the way to parent. And many of us also come from the same old school of schooling, wherein somebody says it's okay. A teacher has all the rights to probably hit a child. I mean, and I strongly say no. The teacher does not have the right. Not as a parent have a right. Treat them as an individual and give them that respect that they deserve. Chetna, let me ask another question to you. This is another one which keeps coming in the discussions that we have and everywhere I go also. Many times parents misunderstand this whole concept of motivation. Motivation cannot be pushy. That, okay, I see that my child should become an engineer or a doctor or a singer, for instance. So many people say that, okay, I'm not asking him to be a doctor. I'm just asking him to be a singer, which is good. I mean, I'd say no, it's not. So what do you think about that? Where do you draw that line between motivation and being pushy?
I think one is if you are tuned into the natural rhythms of the child, which is the natural rhythm of any human being, you would know what they are getting drawn to. You would see naturally things coming up. The child will say, I love singing or whatever. One of the important things to understand is children until the age of 12 or 13, unless they're prodigies, they are not going to, not they're not going to, but they are going to experiment with things. That's why they're trying singing, they're trying an instrument or 2 or 3 or whatever it is. They're trying to play a sport, they're trying to write, they're trying to draw, they're trying to do various things. If we encourage that and give them the required stimulation, I think the children will automatically pick something as a passion around 13, 14 years. And I have seen this in Orinco happening. Another thing to understand is don't jump into these classes. I'm sorry, that I'm not trying to say those people who are running classes are not doing a good job, but they have a unwritten requirement to again give that return on investment to the parents' money. And so somewhere that skill that you're trying to learn, the focus goes away from that into achievement. So those exams for dances and those exams for singing and those theater exams and those abacus exams and all these things again becomes very achievement oriented. A child is not seeking that. A child is seeking experiences. So if as parents we can focus on experiences, all these classes people do, allow them to actually do these classes for the sake that they're doing. I have an art, I have a skill, that is what I'm trying to give your children. But the pressure is so much that the person forgets why they started the class in the first place. So one is give those 13 years of the child to just experiment and explore life. And then thereafter, help the child. So you have a passion to career program. In grade 8, the child will collect these passions, whatever they felt they liked so much that they would like to see if this can be converted into a career. Right? And then they try and mix their achievement, aptitude, attitude, all of this and see how can it become fruitful, right? How can I really make it monetarily attractive also? And then along with that, they make a plan A, plan B career. One is the academic focus and one is these passions and how they can marry with each other, right? Once you do something like why does someone else need to motivate the child? The child has it inside them. That is the child's need, that is the child's desire, that's the child's aim. Child will automatically go on that. We just have to be those people who enable things. We have to understand there are 3 kinds of parenting. One is where you are dragging the child along because you think you know the destination. The second is where you're pushing the child because you think that this child is somebody that needs external motivation for everything and the child is not capable of anything and you don't trust the child. The third is where you're walking along with the child. The child is walking. It's his destination, his path, his everything. He knows. You're walking along with him so that you can be of help because this child still has time to grow in body, mind, and spirit. If that's the parenting that you can have, you don't need to do anything about motivation. Because other than this, if you're doing anything else, it's not motivation. It is your fear, your anxiety, your hopes, your dreams, everything that you're trying to manifest through this child. It is not going to be joyful for either the parent or the child.
Well said, Chetna. Well said.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Absolutely
Thank you so much for
nailed
that, Chetna, because that brings in a lot of perspective to a lot of parents who are listening to this. And I'm very sure this discussion is going to be watched later on also because we're going to have it not just in the auditorium, we're going to also have it in the group later on because this is something that people wanted to listen out to. Recently, when a while back when I had been on a journey outside India with few friends, and one of this parent went to a shop, took me to a shop and said that I want to buy a set of knives, and there is one particular set of knives which is supposed to be the best used by the greatest chefs in the world, like John George and all of them recommend that knife. And I said, okay, why are you buying this? Is there a reason that you're picking up such a expensive set? Because the whole set cost, I think at that time around $1.5 lakh or close to 2 lakh for a set of knife. And I'm wondering why are you going to do it? And he said, you know what? Last month onwards, my child started cooking. And I thought it's a great present to bring to that child because who knows, he might become the next master chef. And I asked, how old is the child? He's 6 years old. Wow. I said, are you going to give this knife to a 6-year-old child because that knife has a capacity of probably butchering something? I mean, how are you going to give it? And he said, who knows? It's okay. It's a good investment for me. And would you do that, Monisha?
I would. I think, at the end of the day, this is the little bit of help that any child needs, right? And if they know that you're taking them seriously, they will do what they're doing seriously, right? And it could be an investment which runs dry, doesn't see the end of the day. It's fine. Not that every parent can afford everything, but I think whatever little you can do, and spotting that passion and encouraging that is my thought about the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I wish I had somebody doing it for me.
What would you say, Chetana, on that? Would you do that, or would you recommend your parents to do that too?
Aurinko is a school which focuses on reduce, recycle, refuse. So I would actually, we have even worked with children making their own telescopes. So I would say, first of all, I would wait for the need to arise in the child. Secondly, I would take him to the nearest village market because I want him to see what is the basic that is happening. I would perhaps also, if knives is something that the child is looking at, cooking is not about knives only, right? But if the child is interested in the instruments of cooking, then we would do some research, we would walk around, we would go into our old village homes and find those awesome things that people cut things with. And perhaps work on it, and also look at how knives are made and how they're sharpened and what can you do and things like that. Then I would prove it to me that you really need this set, because a knife set is for different kinds of cutting. So as far as I understand, if you're cutting only onions and vegetables, you just need one kind of a knife, or maybe two for all that matters. So you prove it to me, do some carving, do some other things, and all of those things. If all of that works, then we can start with a simple one. Then perhaps you could set up a stall or something like that. Have a plan of buying this 1.5 lakh, the earn it and buy it.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you. Two different views.
Chetna is nailing it again and again. Chetna, no wonder you call it a collaboration between parents and educators. See, if you and me could collaborate, you would have saved me the expensive buy of the knives.
Wonderful. Okay, so the last question I have,
just for you.
So the last question I have for both of you is, what is the one advice that you would give to the participants that you saw today? 11 of them participated, amazing presentation. So what is that one advice that you would give to them? Let me start with Monisha.
No. Manoj, you're not starting with me.
Okay, I'll start with Chetna then. Okay,
I will listen to her first.
Yes, Chetna.
No, I think, like I said, it's a beginning. So I don't have advice for them, but I surely want them to be open, just like this, for various things that come into their life. Don't get stuck with one. Just today, there is something new that came up. You liked it. You went ahead with it. So it's good. Also, don't get stuck with what other people think about it, or that you have to tell other people or present to other people and all these things. It doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter to anyone. Anything that you like, your passion, your motivation is for you. You have to feel good in it. And anything that doesn't make you comfortable, don't do it. Right? So even if whether it was dogs, or whether it was your recycling things, or whether it was guitar, whether it was your coding, whatever it is, the day you are working because you want to make an impact to other people watching you, or you are answerable to somebody, or you don't want to do today, but still you are having to work, that's the day you have to understand it's no more passion. It is something else. Don't get into that. I feel many children get into that thing of proving to others, and also you get kind of drawn into the attention that you're getting. Don't get into all of those things. Just be yourself, follow what you want, give in your best, and just forget the rest.
Okay. And now, Monisha, you want to?
I don't mind. I will. I've prepared my answer in my head, and I know what to say now. So let me do this. So kids, I think you guys are absolute rock stars. Okay, so no matter who comes first and who doesn't come first, or who gets that silly prize and who doesn't get it, don't worry. I'll tell you a little about my childhood experience. Okay, and I'm so good at telling stories, so I'm going to do this through the story. So when I was a kid, I had buck tooth. Manoj, don't use this against me, okay? And I had severe buck tooth, and I had like braces and whatnot. So I kept myself, to myself, because I felt every other child would make fun of me, right? So I did not participate in so many things during my schooling years, right? I think from my childhood till the buck tooth starts forming, till all the way up to eighth standard, right? And then slowly the teeth started setting in, and I had a smile, which people said, Manisha, it's beautiful. So the whole impact was always about the teeth, right? And everything originated from the face, and friends made friends with another person because of how you looked and you could speak, etc. I had a huge trouble in my early years. But in the eighth standard, when I had a little bit of confidence and my teeth had started sort of sinking in the normal position, I started taking part in a lot of extracurricular activities. Okay, and I'm talking like a normal school going child because I went to a regular school. So great, I fumbled, I fell because obviously years of keeping yourself hidden, not having done anything to polish your skills. So I did everything which was non-facial, non-verbal, non-speech, all of that, right? So I was very good at sports, but nothing when it came to elocution or speaking, etc. And only from the eighth did I really start opening up. And the first few times, I was stupid. I made a complete fool of myself on stage, off stage, anywhere and everywhere. But you know what? So a lot of friends befriended, friended, depending on the conveniences. And I told myself one day that there are two ways again. Either I can keep getting affected, and I was really tired of this whole, standing affected by comments and what people felt about one's look, teeth, braces, etc. And I said, I'm tired of it. So either I'm going to just have fun and not worry about anything else. Maybe I'll make a fool of myself and all of that, but I'm going to have a little fun now. And this happened, I think, in my 10th standard. It was a very crucial year, right? Because it's boards and everything else, and you had to do well. So I locked myself up. I studied. I read a lot of books. I listened to music like crazy. I shut the world out because there was anyway a lot of disturbance in the family, which I didn't like, right, at the end of the day. So when 10th, ended and I came out, I had some good scores. I was one of the popular, girls of the school. They awarded me with some trophy for having taken part in everything and having done well, which I was not anticipating. And I said, you know what? It's not so bad. All you have to do is actually stop thinking about what others are going to feel, right? And the first few times are going to be bad, but then eventually, when you say, forget it, I'm going to do what makes me feel good. It just turns out all right. It's completely okay. And there has been never, any looking back since then. So I was a different person internally, all of that. I think kids, just keep believing. Don't try perfection at this age. Don't try to, be something that you're not. You will get there. Just keep that little fire that you have, the little spark that you have alive.
Right. Thank you, Monisha. We are coming to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you so much for this. But I have most of the participants still here because we've said that we are going to announce the results, right? So thank you so much, Chetna and Monisha, because what you send me as messages, I truly accept that this was one tough decision to make. And I'm so happy that I was not a judge. I was just sitting on the other side and watching it, so I did not have to judge it. So I'm very happy that I did not have to do it. So thank you so much for this. And I'm very, very sure that it was a very, very tough decision, because you know what? The difference between the first and the third is a mere 2 points on a scale of 100. Okay, so that's the difference that it has come to. So it was absolutely amazing. So I think all of them are winners. So that's what I want to leave all of them with. All of them are winners. We had so many entries, and then we selected the 12 out of them, and they presented here. And from there, we are going to announce the top 3. Are you guys ready for this? If you're ready, just put it on chat box. Yes, participants, if you can hear me. If you're ready for it, you put yes, and then I'll announce the results. If you don't put yes, I'm not going to announce the result.
Manoj, before you announce, Chetna, on both our behalf, we loved every one of them. We loved every one of them. Just want to make it very, very clear. It was it's not something that we wanted to do, but we loved all of you.
Yeah, true.
Okay. I'm hearing some few of them wanting to hear the results. I don't think the rest of them really want to, because it is just about presentation, right? And they did true justice. Some of these children would have probably prepared for a very long time. Some of them did it naturally. And thank you so much. So the judging was tough, and the results are out. I'm going to announce the results without any further delay. On third place, is Malka Bidappa. Malka Bidappa is in 3rd place. Congratulations, Malka. If you are there, a big congratulations to you. In 2nd place is Surabhi Ravishankar. Surabhi, congrats for that. Surabhi Ravishankar. Yes, I just see you saying yes. So congrats, Surabhi, for that. And the 1st place winner was streaming live from some forest. Anshita Dalabera. Anshita Dalabera is the 1st place. Malka was from the forest. Okay. Anshita Dalabera wins the 1st prize. Congratulations, Anshita, for that. Wonderful. So Anshita is 1st place, Surabhi is in 2nd place, and Malka Bidappa is in 3rd place. Congratulations to all the winners. We will be sending out separate mails to all of you, and I am going to reach out to all of you with the prizes as well. All those who participated are going to get participant certificates, and the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place winners are also going to get the mementos and the special UPS from our sponsor, Resonate UPS. So this will ensure that you are never cut off from it. So congratulations, and thank you so much, Monisha and Chetana, for being part of this. A special thanks to the entire Orinco family, Chetana, Anup, Meena ma'am, and the team back there. Thank you so much for being part of this, partnering with Bangalore schools, and we hope that the collaboration continues. So anybody who's here who has not visited Orinco so far, I would say you should.
I
Because
will,
that's
for
an
sure.
experience. That's an
I
experience in
will, for
itself.
sure.
It's not about the school. I asked her what is this. So everything that is put there, including a particular stone in the laying in that place, there is a reason that it is there. So that's what I strongly liked about what they're doing. So all the best, Chetna, and I'm very sure this is going to
Thank
be
you so much for this opportunity. I'll take one second. This the BSCI has. I mean, this expo is really amazing. I had my own doubts how you're going to do it, and it's just 3 of you that are doing this. The experience has been very good. It's not just about this panel, right? We have a stall, and there are people visiting and all of that. Everything is so flawless. So thank you so much. It must have been really backbreaking hard work, but we are very, very grateful that you're giving opportunity for people like us, because we are small schools. We are not known schools, but we are having this opportunity just because of this group that Shweta created, and then Manoj and Sandhya, you both have come together. And for everybody listening, Orinco, it's not a place just for children and for admissions or something like that. Anybody, anywhere across the world, please visit us. We love visitors. So come by. Let's talk about education and bring about a change in this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Monisha. You have a meeting at 12:30. We are already at 12:40, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Chetana. Thank you, all the participants, parents. Wonderful. We sign off here, and we will see you on the other side. Please visit the expo if you're still not visited the expo. Some amazing stalls. This is the first ever 3D experience that you will get of a school. You'll never see that otherwise. Orinco has an amazing stall there. You can go and interact with them as well. Chetana and team are ready to answer any questions that you have in the stall. So please join in there, and we will see you on the other side of the expo. Thank you so much, and we sign off here.
Thank you.
Have a good
Nisha.
time.
Nice
Bye,
meeting you.
Chetna. Pleasure. Same here. Bye.